Hi, I'm Mark Fowler. It's November 15th, the middle of the month. Thanksgiving's on the way. I'm the president of Stowe Management Corporation, which is a business reengineering firm, helping companies both in crisis and growth. And I'm the chief executive officer of Revolutionary Conversations, a training organization based on the book Revolutionary Conversations, the tools you need for the success you want. We have those two companies because we love the melding and the blending of communication, conversation, as it relates to both business, family, career, any day, anything, when you're in the grocery store. So these two businesses go hand in hand. And I just spoke at a California Society of CPAs seminar. It's a conference. It was a forensic conference. It was their annual conference. And I was asked to talk about crisis and crisis management and dealing with the various areas of crisis, because crisis comes in some really, really different forms. Sometimes we don't even know we're in crisis. And today, I'd like to give you a little note that will help you begin to think about how crisis does exist all the time. I know when we go home from business, we think we've done really well and tomorrow is going to continue to be. And then all of a sudden there's a hurricane or tornado, or all of a sudden one of your vendors no longer is in business. It's an amazing thing that we think that things are kind of stable. The traditional way to look at crisis is to look at it from an event perspective. In other words, that hurricane, that tornado, that your majority, a customer that's more than 30% of your business all of a sudden decides not to do business with you anymore. It comes in these kinds of, it's sort of like something's happening to you. All of a sudden it's happening to you. And over the years, working with companies both in crisis as well as growth, we noticed that it doesn't always just come in an event. We'd like to think about it in a way that, and we've been able to identify over the years the fact that somewhere down the line, on a fairly consistent basis, companies, businesses, individuals no longer are creating value on a consistent basis. They forget we don't need that insurance any longer, or so-and-so has been with us for 20 years and, we need somebody younger and that'll be cheaper and whatever. And we just go along eroding the things that have made us stable. In one situation that I talked about at the conference was an entertainment company that had been growing rapidly for about 12 years. And about a year and a half before, it started to lose its momentum. It started to not be able to pull itself together. It wasn't getting the artist it wanted. It was slowing down, and they couldn't figure, because there was a lot of vigorous energy in there. And one of the things that we did was you pulled everybody together. They had 7 departments, and it turned out that they weren't talking to each other. And we did a great retreat, and we helped them bring themselves together. And then over about a year, we ended up doubling the business. And we could have looked at that and just say, oh, that was just a funny thing that happened. And then a year or so later, I was back for a party. And one of the executives mentioned to me that we are doing so well. Everybody is so happy. It's just like when the owner's wife was alive. And I said, really? Well, it turned out that she was the glue. She was the one thing that kept everybody going as they grew, and people had problems, everything from cupcakes to cakes to taking people on trips, spending time in the cafeteria, talking to them one-on-one to help them get through the day. And when she passed away, nobody was there to do that. So a crisis can happen and be brewing at any point in time in your business's career. and in your career as well. So you can break crises up into a number of things. One of which is the standard thing, the event, the tornado, the disaster, you've run out of money. There's just all kinds of different things that you can call an event. And then there's the situations within your organization that you haven't updated your systems, you have not paying attention to the kind of people you're bringing online. They don't quite meet the culture, but you're running around getting people because you need people. I remember one situation, which I also talked about at the conference, was that a fella in the technical area, digital area, had been growing really well, making wonderful profit, and decided that he needed to become bigger and bigger. So they started hiring other people from organizations that were sort of similar to his, some of them much larger than his. And all of a sudden, like a year in, he begins to realize that the place is not coming together. Well, what was going on was that he was, instead of having his culture, he had blended his culture with other people's ideas, other people's enthusiasm or lack of enthusiasm. So in the end, we had to start doing some weeding because the people were bringing their cultures, especially from the larger company, which was much more political, much more slow moving, not so much entrepreneur. So all of a sudden, cold water was going on. Many of the projects that were what used to go, take 6 months were now only taking 12 months. So the kinds of things that we do and the kinds of decisions that we make oftentimes are self-destructive, and we didn't even know they were self-destructive. The thought of hiring somebody else and getting some more people in and getting some more energy and some more ideas and technology, was a good idea. It just wasn't managed properly. It didn't look at what those different cultures were going to do to his business. One of the other things that happens, and then I'll just kind of wind it up, but just give you an idea that nature in itself and the nature of business is one of the things that happens to be part of crisis. We happen to use a crisis management model that goes through 3 different phases: entrepreneurial, professionalization, and decentralization. And as a business goes through those different phases, there's going to be a crisis. It's not unlike a baby who is crawling and wants to walk, and it will fall down at least 1,000 times, supposedly, before it actually begins to walk. Same thing happens to a business. And we begin to think there's something wrong with us because we're not doing well. We're not going where we think we were, and we're not growing like we did. It's because we haven't taken care of things. For instance, the entrepreneur who's taken care of everything, the be all and end all. And then the business gets to a point where they need to hire much more professionalized people who know more than the entrepreneur knows, so that they can begin to grow and expand because they're delegating, and in many cases really do begin to lead the company, even though the owner is still at the top, but they're driving it with their professionalization and where they've been and what they would like to accomplish as well. So when you're looking and worrying about crisis, and we've just gone through a major crisis situation with the pandemic and all the other things that have gone along with it, much of that's not going to change. It may change in the sense that pandemic is not driving it so much, but things are changing faster now than they ever did, from technology to the way we live, the fact that remote is going to be here for a long time. It may never go away. Many businesses may begin to expand using it. Well, how do you continue to do that? How do you find new money? How do you find new goals and objectives? All of these things need to be addressed. So you need to manage success and you need to manage risk at the same time. And crisis will be there no matter what you do, but by mitigating it, by paying attention to it, will almost guarantee that you'll at least get to the next level and the next level. And then you start to reevaluate again. Where are you going? What are you doing? Managing risk and success day to day.